What's up, guys? Toad back again. I feel like I was just here, did the college football week 4 video, so if you missed that, go check it out. It was long. We had a bunch of people in the chat. I broke down a bunch of the games, including the biggest games, gave out 3 plays on the show, which if you missed it are at Ohio plus 19.5, Buffalo plus 13.5, and BYU plus 7. It looks like you might be able to get plus 7.5 on that BYU game now, too. Line looks like it's gone up a little bit. I mentioned the market looked like it was in agreement on 2 of the 3 and not on the Ohio side, but now I'm looking and it does actually look like the market is now in agreement with me on all 3 games. I'm going to talk about mostly baseball in this video, but just to run it down real quick, you see this Ohio now has 65% of the cash on them and 62% of the tickets on the Kentucky side. So it looks like the market has moved into agreement with me on this one. So that's good to see, I guess. I got 2 baseball plays. We can talk about a few of these games real quick. I don't want to go too into detail on this, but talk about a couple of the biggest games here. Baltimore, Detroit. I mean, this is a big game. Obviously, both of these teams fighting for playoff spots. Baltimore is sitting a lot better in the wild card race. I think they're still atop the wild card, or maybe they're behind Kansas City still. I don't know, but they're likely to not fall out of the wild card. Minnesota is the last team in right now. Detroit's like a half game behind them, so it's a crazy cluster there. Baltimore won. I said that I liked Baltimore last night because they were behind Corbin Burns, but he is their one really trustworthy pitcher, and other than that, they don't really have a great starting rotation, so I don't know what we're going to get out of them in this game against Detroit here. They got who's pitching for Baltimore in this one? Cade Povich. Interesting. So Baltimore's got 79% of the cash on them, actually, with 57% of tickets on the other side. Kind of weird to see that the ticket percentage is on the Detroit side in this one. Maybe the bettors like Reese Olson better, and rightfully so. I mean, Reese Olson's a pretty good pitcher. I don't know what we're going to get out of Olson, though, because he just came back from the DL. He was injured for a while. He's been a good young pitcher, though, in this rotation. Decent stats this season, 3.50 ERA, 1.21 whip. His return start off of the DL was not good, but you might see him get back into rhythm, so I don't know if I would put much stock into that bad start against Kansas City, where he only went 2 1/3, allowing 4 earned runs. I think we can expect him to kind of return to form, would be my guess. Against Baltimore, Baltimore has basically never seen him before. Only Eloy Jimenez has ever seen him before and is 1 for 10 off him lifetime. So you're basically looking at a Baltimore lineup who has never seen Reese Olson before, so he could have a little bit of an edge due to that. And then you're looking at Cade Povich on the other side. His numbers are certainly way worse, which is probably why the public is coming in on the Olson side to some extent, because 5.74 ERA, 1.54 whip. Why would you want anything to do with that with Povich? But he's been pitching better in his more recent starts for the most part. Kind of a bad start against Boston there. But he did also just face Detroit, so that could be kind of an issue too. The fact that Detroit just faced him, that doesn't look that great either. So Detroit, their hitters are going to be familiar with him now, where I think going into that game, they'd probably never seen Povich before. So I think Povich is going to have less of an edge now that he is familiar to the opposing hitters now. We're going into that game, he had a little bit of an edge because Detroit's hitters had never seen him before. That's a little bit of an edge to these young pitchers who, I don't know if I would say that Povich is good, but I don't think he's as bad as his numbers look, just because there was one like really horrendous start in there. Yeah, this Oakland one that's really skewing it a bit, but he hasn't been great. But in that start against Detroit, he was good, and they only hit 2 for 17 off him. I think this is probably all in that one start. 118 average and 563 OPS. So my eye was looking at the under in this game more than anything else. That's the way that I would look in this one, if anything. I would not want to try to pick a side in this one, even though the market does look like it's indicating fairly heavily on Baltimore. They're up for minus 115 and minus 133, so a lot of movement. On the total, it's kind of still sitting at 8.5 with juice on the under. 63% of tickets and only 53% of cash on the over. What's up, Kate? What's going on? Nephilim Death Squad, what's up, baby? Is that you, Raven? What's going on, guys? Yeah, we got the Nephilim Death Squad chat in here. You're probably playing one of my videos on Timeline Cleanse right now simultaneously with me actually doing this video live at the same time. That's awesome. All right, so, yeah, I leaned to the under in that one, but, I mean, when you want to take an under, you don't want to look at what the bullpen scenario is. So I don't even know. I didn't even look because I just didn't really want to do it. But the bullpen situation actually does look decent to play an under here. As Detroit came in and they used 2 starters basically in relief, it looks like, yesterday, with Montero, who I thought started this game, but I guess they moved him to a relief role in the game. So they used an opener, and then they used 2 starters in relief, essentially. And the Orioles did not use much of their bullpen either, with Burns going deep into the game as he did. So I like the under in that one. Philadelphia, New York, big game here as well. Philadelphia, they have not clinched the division yet because the Mets are still in the running, but I know Atlanta has now failed to clinch the division, and Atlanta's kind of on the ropes, man. The pressure's on. They're going to have to beat Miami. I don't want to get involved in that Atlanta-Miami game, but Atlanta could miss the playoffs entirely here. They are definitely in danger. Philadelphia, they crushed the Mets yesterday, which is kind of keeping Atlanta's hopes alive to some extent because the Mets are in competition for one of these last wild card spots with Atlanta. This is an interesting one, I guess. I mean, this is kind of a pitching mismatch, actually, if you look at just what the starters do against these opposing hitters. Ranger Suarez is pitching for Philadelphia, and he has had a really good season overall, but as I've mentioned before on the show, I think this season has kind of been an outlier, man. His stats have been so good that they're not really indicative of what he really is as a pitcher. I think he's a decent pitcher, but not so good that a 3.13 ERA and 1.14 whip tells you the whole story here. And I think he was injured for a bit, and since he's come back, he's been a bit worse. I mean, you see he had like this start against Tampa Bay where he allowed 12 hits. I mean, that's not a good indicator. A bad offense like that is hitting you like that. So he has not been in the greatest recent form, with an 11-7 strikeout walk ratio this month. Had a 5 ERA in 2 starts in August, 4.11 this month. So he's been kind of regressing a bit sharply, which like I said, I kind of expected, because I expected his numbers, which are so good, to kind of fall back into what we expect out of him, which you probably expect him to have an ERA closer to 4 and like a whip maybe in the 1.2s or something to that extent. But he does pitch well against the Mets over his career. We have a huge 125 at-bat sample size. He's held them to a 232 average and 640 OPS. But he has walked 13 guys against them with 25 strikeouts, so the walk rate is a little bit high there. But he's been pretty good against the Mets, whereas the Mets have Sean Manaea pitching, and he has not been good against Philadelphia in his career. His stats are really good this season, 3.26 ERA, 1.08 whip, and he's another guy who I think is pitching a little bit above his pay grade. Like, he's been wild throughout the course of his career, so it's kind of interesting to see his whip this low. You would expect him to regress a little bit from that too, but he's been pitching well recently. He's in the much better recent form. Look at what the Mets have done in his starts recently, dude. This is absolutely insane. Going all the way back to June 26th with a win over the Yankees, the Mets have lost only 2 games that he started, and they've won. I can't even count how many of those that they've won. So the Mets' record in Manaea's starts has been insanely good, but he doesn't pitch well against the Philadelphia Phillies. In 70 at-bats, they have a 357 average against him, 7 home runs off of him, and 1,145 OPS. So I don't want to touch Manaea just because his matchup numbers against Philadelphia are so bad. So I just can't get involved in that one, because you got Manaea, who's in the much better form. The Mets keep winning with him on the hill, but his numbers against Philadelphia specifically are bad enough that I don't want to do it. Mets look like they do have some of the action in the market, up from -115 to -118, 65% of the tickets, 76% of the cash. Ricky Bev, I'm not showing the feet on this channel here, unfortunately, but I mean, I could, I guess, but I'm just in such hyper autist mode right now that I can't let anything distract me, man. And you don't want my bare feet to distract you. I was going to talk about Toronto-Tampa briefly, just because I almost wanted to take the Toronto side here. Market looks like it's slightly indicating on Tampa, kind of up from -130 to -132, 71% of the tickets, 75% of the cash on Tampa. So they do have a little bit more of the cash, I guess, but they are public. The public doesn't like this Toronto team, and they like Taj Bradley more than they like Yariel Rodriguez, because Yariel Rodriguez, they know less, and I think his stats probably look a little bit worse than Bradley's do, but I actually like the Toronto side here. I mean, this is between two teams who are out of it. These two teams are not going anywhere. Tampa used a ton of their relief staff yesterday, man. So their bullpen is at a disadvantage in this game, I would say, because they used 5 relief pitchers yesterday, including a couple of their better relievers. Toronto only used 2 relief pitchers, and they did not use their closer yesterday. Toronto's bullpen is not good, but their bullpen is in a much better rest spot coming into this game. And looking at the starting pitching matchup, Yariel Rodriguez, not good numbers on the season, 4.29 ERA. He's only got 1 win, 1.30 whip, but he hasn't gotten a lot of run support. He hasn't been allowing a lot of runs this month. He only has a 1.46 ERA, which is pretty good, but 11-4 strikeout walk ratio. I don't know. It's such a small sample size. It's hard to say, but that walk number doesn't look that great, and I hesitate to want to play him because he has not gone deep into these starts. His deepest start was a 5-inning performance against Atlanta, which was good. I mean, Atlanta can hit. That was a good start out of Rodriguez, but he only went 3 innings and 4 1/3, and the other 2 against Minnesota and St. Louis. So I hesitate to actually want to play Rodriguez here, but against Tampa, they haven't really seen that much of him. Only 12 at-bats worth, and they only have 1 hit off of him. 5 strikeouts, no walks. He's held them to an 0.83 average and 167 OPS. But then again, Tampa, the guys who have seen him before now at least have some familiarity with him. But that does indicate that Rodriguez may match up decently against this pretty weak-hitting Tampa offense. And then on the other side, I mean, Taj Bradley, his ERA is not that great, 4.39, 1.24 whip. He's been struggling as well. I mean, he's going deeper into some of these recent games, but he has not been in good recent form. He's allowed 3 or more earned runs in every start except for his most recent one, going all the way back to a shutout that he had against Toronto. Oh, crap. He shut out Toronto on the road the last time he faced Toronto, but since then he's allowed many runs in basically all of his starts until this Cleveland one, but he only went 4 1/3 in this one against Cleveland. So I don't know. I mean, I wouldn't say that was a good start at all. He walked 3 guys, gave up 5 hits, 8 base runners allowed in 4 1/3. Not great. So he has not been in good recent form, and against Toronto, they hit him decently in 35 at-bats worth. They've seen him a little bit. 7-1 strikeout walk ratio is decent for Bradley, but he's allowed 3 home runs to them, 7 RBIs, 286 average, and 906 OPS. So Bradley has the worst of these specific matchup numbers there, and neither pitcher has been pitching that well recently. And I might even argue that Rodriguez has pitched a little bit better recently, so I kind of lean to that side in that one, but not something I'm actually going to get involved in. And then what else? Should I just get to my actual plays? Yeah, I probably should, I guess, right? I mean, there are some other games that do have some playoff implications here, but let's see. Yeah, I guess I will just go into it, I guess. So I think Philadelphia, by the way, they did clinch a playoff spot, but they haven't clinched the division yet, and they did not celebrate heavily. So they're not really in one of those spots where they over-celebrate, and you're going to want to fade them for that reason. So I'll just throw that out there as well. The Dodgers, by the way, actually kind of look like they're screwed in this game. I'll just throw that out there, too. I mentioned we didn't even know who their starter was going to be yesterday, and they went with a bullpen game yesterday, an opener approach, where they really ran through their bullpen against Colorado yesterday, and they won the game and barely did, and had to hold them off. And now they have Walker Buehler pitching, who's been really struggling, and they're a massive favorite in this game, so I would not want to lay a price like that with the Dodgers. You could look to maybe just take a shot on the Colorado money line in that one, but I don't know, because teams do tend to do better after they go with an opener approach, but in this case, the Dodgers used so much of their bullpen yesterday. They almost used the entirety of their bullpen yesterday. I would not want to do anything with the Dodgers, especially with Buehler doing so bad that they're probably going to be into their bullpen early in this game. Cal Quantrill actually might be the better of the two pitchers there. I mean, he's one of the least bad starters in Colorado's rotation, but he does have bad numbers against the Dodgers, so could also look to an over in that game potentially, but the market doesn't look great for it. Public coming in on the over there, and less of the tickets, or less of the cash than the tickets, but it looks like it's gone up slightly to a 9 at juice to the under. Speaking of unders, I'll get to the plays right now. Screw it. Let's do it. Pittsburgh, Cincinnati, under 9. Yeah, I'm risking it playing an under in Great American Ballpark, I believe is what it's called, in Cincinnati. It is a good hitting park, but this is a starting pitching matchup where I like the under, and I think you're getting a little bit of value because the pitchers are still a little bit unknown, and because it's Cincinnati and they have a good hitting park. But I think this starting pitching matchup is good on both sides. It's conducive to an under. I'm doing it. The market looks to be sort of indicating on the under to some extent, where the number has gone down from 9 juice to the over to juice to the under. I found it at under 9 minus 110, just the normal price on it. So it does look like it's gone down a little bit, although I do see 68% of the tickets and 97% of the cash on the over. That worries me a little bit, but those numbers are moving all over the place, so I don't know that I can put that much stock into that, but I'm just going based on how I handicap these games as well. And this is a situation where the game yesterday was high scoring, so that's going to be a little bit misleading. You look at Cincinnati, they've played a couple high scoring games. They've been in a lot of high scoring games recently. So that kind of worries me a little bit, I guess, as far as like the trend that they've been playing a lot of high scoring games. But then again, it also could give you value on a total because they've been playing so many high scoring games recently. That means the odds makers kind of have to throw up a higher total there. Yesterday's game was 8-3 Reds, but I don't know if it was a little bit misleading. I mean, the Reds did have 2 innings where they just kind of exploded. And then other than that, there weren't a lot of runs scored. There were only 17 hits in the entire game and 11 runs scored. So Cincinnati scored 8 runs on 8 hits. So that is a misleading run total there, even though Pittsburgh only scored 3 on 9. So Pittsburgh probably should have put up more runs than they did. But Cincinnati, misleading run total in that one. And neither team used a lot of their relief staff at all. Both teams used 2 relief pitchers. They both kind of use them to eat up some innings. So the better relievers on both staffs are in play today. So I like that as far as the under. And then we're hoping we get good starts, obviously, from both of these starters, which I like the starting pitching matchup. This is a matchup between 2 young guns who have never been seen before by the opposing hitters. Jared Jones, I'm always playing on Jared Jones games, baby. I'm either playing on him or I'm playing on unders in his games. Rightfully so. I mean, this is his rookie season. He was injured for a while, and he just came back recently. 3.85 ERA, 1.15 whip. He's putting together a good rookie season. And the fact that he got injured, I think, actually helps this play a little bit more because that means he has not pitched the full season. So, like, rookies a lot of times will wear down, especially if they throw hard like Jones does. They can wear down towards the end of the season. But if you got injured there, so you didn't pitch the full season, that's going to kind of mitigate that a little bit. So I expect that Jones won't be wearing down. You see, he was out until August 27th here, so he missed almost all of July and August. And since he's come back, he's made 4 starts. He had 1 bad start against the Cubs, basically kind of getting back into rhythm. And then since then, he put together 2 good starts against the Cubs again, who had just seen him. Washington, who, they don't hit very well, but he put together a good start in that one. And then he did kind of struggle against Kansas City, which worries me a little bit. He walked 3 guys and it gave up 6 hits in 4 innings. Wasn't a good start, but he did still hold them to 2 earned runs, so he limited the damage at least. So since he's come back, overall, if you exclude that August start, in September he's been decent. 3.63 ERA, 18-4 strikeout walk ratio, and 17 1/3 innings pitched, 16 hits. That's not that bad. So, and then you look at him against the Cincinnati Reds, only Rosario. Well, I don't know why Rosario's listed on here because it says that he's faced him before, but 0 at-bats, 0 walks, whatever. So that, I guess, indicates that he must have faced Jones and gotten hit by a pitch. I think that's the only option here, right? Because he didn't walk. If he reached on an error, I think he'd be 0 for 1 off him, right? So that's weird. So I think Rosario probably faced him once and got hit by a pitch or something. I don't know why he's listed here, but whatever. Cincinnati has they've never seen Jones before. So you get this young, good pitcher. I'm a broken record. I keep saying it over and over again. When you get this good young pitcher and the opposing lineup has never faced this guy before, they don't know what to expect. They haven't faced him in a live game scenario yet. They are going to have to adjust and get used to what this guy's going to throw at them. So it tends to be an advantage to the pitcher early on in the game. So Jones has that going for him. And on the Cincinnati side, they have the same thing going for them. They got Rhett Lauder, baby, who has a tremendous mullet. Look at this guy. Just look at this guy's picture. You want to bet on this guy, right? He's got this crazy flowing mullet. He's got the mustache. He looks like he's right out of the 90s. He looks like Dennis Eckersley or something, except he has a way worse stash than Eckersley. He's got to grow that stash out, man. See if it can get a little bit thicker. Then you're looking at like some Eck type of stuff there, but with longer hair. This guy's got glorious hair, better than Dennis Eckersley, actually. I'm going to play on Rhett Lauder here. I'm going to play the under, as I'm saying. Rhett Lauder's got a 1.74 ERA so far in his rookie season. I think he only has 3 starts so far, maybe 4. 1.26 ERA is a little bit high because he's wild, dude. I mean, he throws exactly like you would expect. You look at this guy's picture, you know exactly the way he pitches. He throws hard, and he's wild. I mean, I don't know if there's more to say about that, but that's what he's been doing. He's gone at least 5 innings in his last 3 starts, which is good. So only his opening start, he didn't go as many innings in that one against a pretty tough Milwaukee lineup, and he walked 4 guys in that start. Then he walked 4 against Houston as well, another tough lineup. But then in his last 2 starts, he only walked 1 guy across 10 1/3 innings against St. Louis and Minnesota, both on the road. So Lauder, I think he seems to be progressing a little bit and getting a little bit better as he goes on, even though he did allow 3 runs against Minnesota. 5-to-1 strikeout walk ratio indicates that wasn't really that bad a start. And over the course of the 3 previous starts, he only allowed 1 earned run across the other 3 starts. So he is not allowing a lot of runs. He's throwing pretty hard. 17-9 strikeout walk ratio. I mean, yeah, the walks are way too high. He's got to keep that in check a little bit more, but he has been doing that over the last couple of starts. 17 strikeouts. You'd want to see that number be a little bit higher as well in 20 2/3 innings, but still, I think he does have decent strikeout capabilities here, and he's only allowed 17 hits and 4 earned runs, and he hasn't allowed a home run over that span, although he is in a fairly home run-friendly ballpark here, and he's done a little bit worse at home than he has on the road, but he faces the better offenses at home, too. So I don't know if there's that much you can take away from that. Pittsburgh's offense is not as good as Milwaukee or Houston. And, of course, Pittsburgh has never seen him before. So on both sides of this, you get this young rookie pitcher who's pitching decently at the very least, or pitching well, arguably. And the opposing lineup has never seen him before. And neither of these opposing lineups are that formidable, really, either. So the pitchers both have that built-in edge on both sides of this matchup where the hitters have never seen these guys before. So that's an under, and you're getting under 9 in that one. So that's where I'm going in that one. Yeah, the slump is continuing, baby. What's up, guys? AI, or is it Al? What's up, brother? What's up, everybody? Thanks for joining early on a Saturday. Yeah, I am a giant slump. That's true. Michael, what's up? Doc, you keep wanting to see my tits. You're gay, bro. We're slumping. Let's get out of the slump here. And then the other game I'm going to play, I don't know if I want to... I don't know if I even want to do this, but I'm doing it. Laying a road price on Minnesota as a favorite. I think that the situation just calls for it, man. My Red Sox are dead, so I'm playing against them. The matchup, I mean, the market looks like it's moving heavily in the direction of Minnesota. I wish I got it at the better number and just laid the money line minus 120. They're up to minus 146 now. They're public. The public's coming in on the Minnesota side as well. 74% of the tickets, 85% of the cash, though. So I think we see legitimate market movement on the Minnesota side here. It's moved up to such an extent that I think that that's the only way that you can read this, that there have been big bets coming in on Minnesota. You could still find them, because the line's up in the minus 140s now, I'm splitting the bet half on the run line, minus 1.5 at plus 120, and half on the money line at minus 145. So that way, if Minnesota wins, but they only win by 1, it means you'll actually win a slight amount of money because the bet that you paid less to make is the run line play. That one would be the one that lost. So you actually win a little bit of money if that winds up being the case. Or you could play a minus 1 run line if you can find that out there, and then the bet would push if they win by 1. So not really a horrible scenario there either. So I don't mind either of those. And I don't mind playing just on the money line either at minus 145, to be honest. Either way you want to do it. I like Minnesota in this game. The Red Sox are dead, dude. I mean, the whole talk was that, if the Red Sox sweep Minnesota, they might still be alive. Yeah, good luck with that. They dropped the first game last night, Friday night. The Red Sox got a good start out of Richard Fitz. Dick Fitz became the first Red Sox starter to ever go at least 5 innings in his first 3 starts and allow no runs in any of them. That is what he did. He looks like a decent pitcher. But then after that, the Red Sox bullpen did not hold up their end of the bargain. And we know Minnesota's bullpen's better than the Red Sox bullpen is. That game went 12 innings last night, and the Red Sox succumbed and lost, gave up 3 runs in the 12th inning and only scored 1 run back with that stupid runner on second rule. Hate it. Baseball is just not the same. Those extra innings are where unders go to die, by the way. It did not happen last night. That game still went under, but you have games where I think there was a game. It was that game where I mentioned it was Cleveland against probably it was against Minnesota. I think it was Bailey Ober against Tanner Bibby, I think, not too long ago. That was a game where I was like, oh, the under looks good here. And the under was like completely good. It was an under game the whole way, and I think it was like 2-2 at the end of the ninth. Then, of course, it went into extra innings, and like 5 runs got scored in extra, so it wound up soaring over the total, basically, and you wound up getting killed. That runner on second rule absolutely kills unders. It is terrible. I hate it. It's a complete joke, to be honest. It's not even baseball. But back to this. Red Sox, they blew it last night. I think that they're a dead team, man. They're dead men walking at this point. I don't know if we're going to see much out of them. I mean, when I went to see them like a few weeks back, they looked like they were a team that just didn't have it together at all. Their defense is just terrible. They have the worst fielding in baseball. They looked like, aside from Jarren Duran, they looked like they had no motivation at all. This Red Sox team has no heart, and they play terribly at home. They have one of the worst home records in baseball, actually, really, even though their record is just below 500 right now. They have been horrendous at home. They have a better road record than home record. There's just nothing good about this. And both of these teams used a ton of their relief pitchers last night. Both teams ran through like their entire bullpen to get through those 12 innings. But Minnesota's the team that has the better of these two bullpens, in my opinion. The Red Sox bullpen isn't that bad, but it's not good. Minnesota's bullpen is pretty decent. So given that both bullpens are completely worn out after yesterday's game, I trust the Minnesota side more because I like their starter better in this game. I like the situation better, and I like their bullpen better than the Red Sox bullpen. Oh, man. What else was I even going to say? And yeah, the situation, like I said, Boston, I think they know that they're out of it. It's like, oh, if they just sweep Minnesota, man, their hopes are still alive. Yeah, hopes dashed instantly. Get out of here. You're dead. Seattle is actually ahead of Boston now in the wild card race. So Minnesota, I mean, they're the team that has to have more motivation here, even though the pressure is on. You are laying a price with them. They do need to win. They're in the last wild card spot right now. Now, Detroit is right behind them, and Seattle is actually only a couple of games out right now. Seattle is ahead of Boston, I think, by like 2 or so games now. Just pathetic, just ridiculous. So Minnesota, with Detroit right at their heels, Minnesota's going to have to keep playing. So at the very least, you know you're going to have to get a focused Minnesota team here. Whereas Boston, if they know they're out of it now, even though they're technically not totally eliminated yet, they know. You're probably going to see this Boston team kind of not have heart coming into this. And then the starting pitching matchup, I mean, look at this. Pablo Lopez pitching for Minnesota. He's one of their best starters. Him and Ober. I like playing on both of these guys. 3.84 ERA this season, 15 wins, 1.15 whip. Over the course of the season, 187 strikeouts, only 37 walks, and 175 and 2/3 innings, 165 hits allowed. 23 home runs isn't very good and doesn't translate that well to Fenway Park, but other than that, his stats are really good. I mean, his home road splits aren't really crazy either. He pitches pretty consistently between the road and home. Doesn't really matter for Ober. For Pablo Lopez, I'm getting them confused here. And Lopez has continued to pitch really well recently. He had a 1.71 ERA in the month of August, 22-5 strikeout walk ratio. This month, 23-4, 2.25 ERA. He just continues to pitch consistently well. I mean, he's a veteran pitcher at this point. He's used to making these long runs in these seasons. He pitched into the playoffs last year. He's used to it. He's a good pitcher. I don't know what else to say about that. And then against the Red Sox in 48 at-bats, decent-sized sample. The Red Sox are only 9 for 48 off him. 23-2 strikeout walk ratio. That is crazy. Like, Red Sox, when their hitters face Lopez, they're striking out almost half of their at-bats against him. That's just insane. He's held them to a 188 average and 532 OPS. Red Sox hitters have really weak numbers against Lopez. So Lopez is the way to go in this starting pitching matchup versus Cutter Crawford, whose stats are pretty good on the season. 4.19 ERA, 1.1 whip. That's pretty good. Overall, 162 to 47 strikeout walk ratio isn't that bad. 142 hits allowed and 171 and 2/3 innings is good. That's a very low hit rate. He's not allowing many hits, but he's allowed 33 home runs. He might have allowed the most home runs in baseball this year, man. I would have to look, but he's up there as far as like home run, especially home run allowed rate. He's one of the worst in baseball. And he's pitching, at Fenway, which is a pretty home run conducive park, which doesn't help really. So both of these pitchers give up a lot of home runs, and Cutter Crawford is worse at it. His strikeout rate is not as high as Lopez's is. His strikeout rate's not that high. The walk rate, a little bit worse than Lopez's as well. And he has not done as well recently either. He had a 6.32 ERA in the month of August, 22 to 11 strikeout walk ratio. Not as good. This month, 21 to 5 is a bit better, but 4.86 ERA this month. So his ERA has not been good. Granted, he's faced a lot of good offenses over that span, but still, he has not been pitching well. Pablo Lopez is in the much better recent form. And then Crawford against Minnesota. His numbers are not that great in a 24 at-bat sample size. It's not a lot to work with, but Minnesota has 9 hits off of him. So Pablo Lopez, in twice as many at-bats against the Red Sox hitters, has allowed the same amount of hits that Crawford has in half the at-bats. So 9 hits. And Crawford only has a 5.3 strikeout walk ratio, so a much, much worse strikeout walk ratio against Minnesota's hitters. They have a 375 average and 944 OPS off of Crawford. Crawford, yeah, not going to happen. Red Sox, I hate to say it, they're dead. They're doomed. It's over. Minnesota's going to win this game. I don't know what else I could say about it, man. So that's it. That's going to do it for me today, man, for the daily breakdown, mostly baseball here. Those 2 baseball plays. The under in Pittsburgh, Cincinnati, under 9, and Minnesota Twins. You're laying a price, but I'm doing it at -1.5 runs, plus 120. Half the bet on that and half on the run line at -145. Check out my college football video as well, where, as I mentioned, I have Ohio plus 19.5, Buffalo plus 13.5, BYU plus 7. And like I said, you actually might be able to get 7.5 in that one because the line looks like it's going up a little bit in that one. Go watch the college football video to see the analysis on those and an analysis on many of the other college football games, including basically the biggest games that are out there. That's going to do it for me. Thanks for hanging out, guys. No, Paul, you did not miss NFL. I'll probably do that video tonight. Usually, I've been doing it on Saturday nights typically, so I'll talk about NFL tonight. So I'll be live streaming. It'll probably be around midnight or so. It'll be late night tonight. We'll do it. Turn off my TV. No way, baby. Although I think I still have the CW on because I had the San Jose State, Washington State game on here. I should change it back to sports at least. ESPN. We'll go back to ESPN here at the very least. I usually have sports going on. It's like my white noise. Raven likes to use my voice. Raven and Top Lobster like to use my voice. I'm Better Off Dead as white noise. I'm using sports as my white visual here. We're all white here. White power, obviously. Thanks for coming in, guys, and hanging out. Oh, man. I guess that's going to do it. I'm Tower Gang Toad. You can follow me on Twitter. You can follow the Tower Gang podcast, of course. We're live every Wednesday at 9:11 p.m. We are the most hilarious, offensive podcast out there. You're going to bet your life savings. I would recommend against that, David. You got to bankroll. You don't want to unload. Don't bet more than you can afford. Don't go crazy on one bet, even though you like it. My favorite play that I have out of all of these plays is probably the BYU one, but I don't know, man, because I think they're all almost like equal strength for my college football plays. I like my baseball plays a little bit less than the college ones, to be honest, if you wanted me to rank them in any way, but I always kind of just bet the same amount on each. Follow the Tower Gang podcast, guys. Sign up for the Patreon, patreon.com/Tower Gang, where you get bonus content, live pre-shows, live post-shows, more content all over the place. You get to hang out in a Telegram with us. Thanks again, guys, for hanging out in the chat with me, and I will see people tonight for this NFL show that I'll do. It'll probably be close to midnight, 1 a.m., something like that. My college football video is out there, and it's an hour and a half long, guys, so College football is starting in less than an hour at this point, I think, so you don't have that much time, but I gave you what my plays are. You can go back and see what the analysis is on those, though. Thanks again, guys. Have a good one. Have a good Saturday. Peace out.